What do you think the end of modern civilization looks like?
Oh, the end of civilization. Good question. Probably most accurately described as a fracturing of the administrative body, the structural glue that holds us together politically.
Politically, not interpersonally or culturally.
Politically.
Is that why both main parties and all Western democracies believe the same thing in terms of cultural projects and the slow eradication of previously untouchable freedoms? Neither side upholds individual rights, personal rights. Neither stand by the belief that each individual is responsible for and in charge of his own outcome. And not because life is always fair and the good don't get stitched and the bad don't get lucky. That ain't true. But because it's the only attitude available that will maintain the basic freedoms that we Westerners enjoy. One side of the political spectrum pushes forward in taking control of people's lives, and the other side slowly relents. The basic principle upon which freedom rests and is infinitely justified has been marched on by the institutions. Which is a description of what I think the end of modern civilization looks like.
There you go, flouncing along through the auriferous field of oilseed rape, waving your hands round like a child on her maiden voyage through the crop. You've made very big jumps with your arguments there, and you've not always landed in the good stuff, if you know what I mean. Don't look as if you do.
You're saying I make leaps of logic that don't always pay off in the manner I intended.
Oh, that's it. Speak like that, You could become my translator. You could help me work out finally what the words coming out of my mouth mean. I'll pay you, of course. You become a government advisor. Pays handsomely. Far better than this bar job, I no doubt.
No, thank you, Boris. I don't think I've ever said anything to you in support of expanding the state, so to accept such a role would be to defile the very standards I stand by.
Political disagreement on things that matter is very dangerous. We need uniformity on the big things.
That sounds terrifying.
Oh, it is, If we return to the tribalism of varying opinions, with today's technology, we blow each other to smithereens.
Right, we all need to be coaxed into accepting the same future, with the appearance of freedom of choice being little more than subterfuge.
There you go again, exactly. Are you sure I can't tempt you with this position? We must accept that civilization has moved on in unity, a unity that can and must never be ripped asunder, and that must be held onto with a globally realized and orchestrated collective destiny.
Yep, that sounds terrifying.
It's homogeny or capitulation, I'm afraid.
Modern civilization can only survive if we homogenize around principles.
No. Outcomes. If we focus on principles, civilization will collapse into anarchy and despair.
If we focus on outcomes, then modern civilization will reorder into a lifeless, soulless slavery dictated by unaccountable elites.
Slimline tonic. A squeeze of lime, please. All this disagreement has put me in need of some vitamin C. What I hear over and over again is that the average person feels completely disconnected from politics, and I can't, for the life of me, work out why.
I could offer a suggestion.
Oh, I thought you might. Go on. As bonkers as it may be, it does provide some relief to the boredom listening to you go on your jaunty journeys through the forests of forbidden falsehoods.
Global news, the global conversation, even national news, exists primarily as a to and fro between the political and the media classes. It's a self-fulfilling, self-perpetuating system that is left unsullied by the input or interests of the average person, as you call them, leaving them, or us, feeling completely disconnected.
There you go, bashing us politicians as usual. We really are the most persecuted breed of human in modern society. Look, we're elected on a manifesto, which, like all of our good predecessors, we try desperately to avoid enacting. Then we faff about a bit, trying to adapt to the changing situations, And, it's the media's job to hold us to account and report back to the people. Where's your problem?
First of all, the media no longer report facts and incidences for the public to digest. They push narratives that are often contrary to their own personal behaviour. Take, for instance, your infamous Christmas gatherings while the common folk were locked down and forced to only allow 13 people to attend a funeral. Some of the media pushed against it hard, but others were surprisingly gentle in their criticism, almost certainly because they also attended these parties and were equally culpable. Even those in the media who did attack it wholeheartedly did so on the issue of hypocrisy, which, don't get me wrong, is nauseating and usually important.
Yeah, I prefer to call it varying degrees of standard and regulation.
But in this circumstance, they should have been highlighting the fact that you guys clearly didn't think there was much danger. You certainly weren't in the grips of the fear that's been promulgated by the political media machine.
Political media machine. Listen to him.
That didn't fit their narrative, so it's not been mentioned. If there's one thing we know about politicians, they're definitely selfish enough to want to keep themselves alive and look after their own loved ones. So their flippancy with the rules speaks volumes and is something that should have been honed in on by attentive critical media.
First of all, I've explained all of this enough times. It was a work do.
Yeah, but what about these new emails asking invitees to bring their own booze? That was days after this work do, at which Carrie Simmons also attended. What's she got to do with the government?
I shan't be explaining myself again, least of all to you. But returning to your previous theory, you appear to be painting Joe Public as a bunch of bimlos who can't work out anything themselves via, logical inference.
Not at all, Boris. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. We can see events and evidence ourselves from which we form our own narratives, which the media completely ignores, spinning a different story instead. Which the government then reacts to, and the merry-go-round starts once again, leaving us, the voter, the average person, completely out of the loop and disconnected.
I'm not really sure what you're getting at.
When the media says that Boris Johnson's under growing pressure as Omicron cases surge, where's that pressure coming from? The public? No. No one knows what the public thinks. They're referring to themselves. They are putting the government under pressure. The media. The government then react to this pressure, then the media spin a new story. Us voters are surplus to requirements within this system. It's a ping-pong fantasy between two groups who don't even believe in their own fanatical stories. They're having parties instead.
Another low blow.
And that's why they're disconnected.
No, it's because they're all a bunch of right-wing conspiracy nutcases, like your good self. Get us some tonic water, will you please?
Good week, Boris.
They're getting harder by the day. Well, we've got this report coming out about gatherings at number 10 during the stricter stages of lockdown. All within the rules, mind you. But, it just doesn't look very, it's complete and utter rhubarb. Complete rhubarb. It just looks a little bit,
hypocritical.
Well, that is a word that's been bandied about by the press, but, that lot can't be trusted. Just a bunch of frazzle-brained killjoys who nick the cheese but leave the pineapple.
Oh, I love pineapple on a pizza.
Oh, didn't see you come in, Harry. Oh, you've still got your mask on then. Good man.
I have it around my chin sometimes, when it gets hot and stuffy and hard to breathe. But why wear one at all, Harry? Well, around my chin, of course, it doesn't give me full protection, but it gives me that sense of security, knowing that I can just whip it up whenever required.
Good for you, Harry. The preservation of life and health should always be top of the agenda.
I see things aren't going that well for you still,
They just don't get it. They just don't. The rules can never be the same for everyone. I know, Harry, I know, but they don't give me a minute's peace at the moment, even with this Russia-Ukraine thing bubbling away in the background.
Well, if it helps at all, Boris, I'm not angry at you for the parties.
Well, yes, it does, my dear fellow, my amiable interlocutor, my argumentative antagonist,
I'm angry at you for locking down.
Oh.
For some reason, you found yourself at the mercy of modelers, unelected, alarmist-leaning modelers, and the glorified health and safety experts that present the data.
Now, you leave Chris Whitty out of this.
It was either incompetence or corruption that led you down the devastating path of lockdowns and all other liberty-stripping measures.
You mean safety-first precautionary methods?
And it's because of either corruption or because of a doomed attempt to justify previously taken action that you continue to listen to these wildly inaccurate boffins.
Well, what was he supposed to do? Just ignore the modelers?
Modelers don't run society, Harry.
And modelers were, a really important part of the fight against COVID-19. You tell him, Harry. I'm starting a petition to have a statue of Jonathan Van Tam to replace that old one of Colston that they ripped down in Bristol.
At one point, I would have thought you were joking.
Well, yeah, and if America was sensible, they'd knock down Jefferson and erect a well-earned statue of Anthony Fauci, saviour of America. We all know that modelers were essential in the fight against COVID-19. We learnt it in that song, 12 Days of COVID, 7 modelers modelling.
I thought it was 7 meddlers meddling.
The order's not important. The important thing is, Boris did the best he could do, given the advice he was given, And he's looking very well. Yep, I've lost 7 pounds. Oh, what a coincidence. I've lost exactly the same. What about you, Bob?
Believe it or not, I've lost 7 pounds as well.
Oh my God, amazing. O-A-M-A-A-O-A-M-Z-G. Amazing. Oh yeah, amazing indeed. My fat percentage is now below that of a cashew nut. Oh, that's always a big milestone. I see you on a cloudy day, my princess. I love you from July till May, my princess. Not in June, though. I'm joking, my princess. You look great, so smoking, my princess. Yes, great. Very moving. Yeah, but I'm a little bit worried about this not in June joke, I think that might be a bit risky. No, I think it's okay because you keep repeating my princess.
What's the poem called?
Not in June. Oh, well, in that case, no, I wouldn't make the title out of it, That's pushing it a bit. I wouldn't make it the theme of the poem.
My Princess might work as a title, Harry. One which would undoubtedly suit her indoors.
I'm going to ignore that blatant racism. Racism? Oh, sexism, racism, same thing. But I'm going to ignore it because that was such a great idea. I never saw it. Your poems are hard things to pull off, I write them for Carrie. The best I get is a spaghetti bolognese, if I'm lucky. I don't eat beef anymore. It's barbaric. Oh, neither do I. Carrie's nutty about this stuff, If she's in a good mood, I get corn with a Q. If she's in a bad mood, the other day she'd be polenta. Bloody awful stuff. Yeah, but it's not barbaric because polenta doesn't have feelings.
Dogs do. What about the despicably cruel, disgustingly celebrated and amply attended dog-eating festival in China?
Oh no, I mustn't criticise China. Well, I agree, Harry. But how do you know that polenta doesn't have feelings?
You ain't got your mask today, Harry.
I've always been wearing a mask.
My apologies.
Oh, anyway, what have you been up to, me old mucker? What's keeping you busy nowadays? Well, actually, I've been secretly working on a vaccine for unhappiness. The way I see it, unhappiness is inside the body, like a virus. So why can't we get a vaccine to prevent it?
No, Harry, that's a profound false equivalence.
I'm interested, actually. Why aren't we using more vaccines to cure more problems, like unhappiness?
Sorry, Harry, but this is a different level of insanity.
You pour the drinks, Mr. Barman. Leave the discussions to us. So, how far are you along in development?
Well, I've recently bought a book on advanced immunology.
Oh, right. So,
It was a little tricky, so I actually bought the beginner's guide to immunology.
yes, well, start from the basics and get a solid stance and, grow from there.
Which itself was a lot more difficult than the title suggested, so I went to the dictionary to look up immunology.
So you'd say you were still in the early stages of development.
So why do you think Elon Musk bought Twitter?
That's a good question.
That was an amazing question, actually.
Well, there are a couple of possible explanations. He says he wants to reinstate free speech. But where's the profit in that? And, besides, free speech is a smokescreen for hatred and racism and sexism and misogyny, more than it is a celebration of free thought and free inquiry and free expression.
Free speech is an essential component of the apparatus at the heart of a functioning liberal democracy.
But people say such mean things, Free speech is fine when it doesn't offend anyone. That's what I say.
Free speech is always discussed in relation to offensive behaviour, Harry. Otherwise, it doesn't come into consideration. It's either free or it isn't.
Yeah, but I'm not so sure about that one, matey. Free speech can have certain limitations, and I believe in them. I no doubt that Elon Musk will have a code of conduct of sorts, unless he's just going to let the thing run wild with conspiracy theories.
And misinformation.
Yes, Harry, the kind of stuff this guy likes to chuck around. Actually, sorry, we're having a nice conversation. That was a little bit below the belt. Apologies.
Not to worry.
But, back to the subject at hand, it could prove to be dangerous insofar as it inflames the already treacherous position the government finds itself in trying to stamp out misinformation. If Elon Musk lets all the lunatics back on Twitter, come on, can you imagine?
So you're fretting about the government losing a monopoly on truth and information.
Yeah, but wouldn't you?
Without free speech, voters cannot hold the government to account if they indulge in wrongdoing. God forbid.
See, we're going down the conspiracy route again.
Only a politician or a member of the established media class could assign ridicule to the idea that the government would indulge in wrongdoing, corruption, or obscene malpractice. For the rest of us, it is a ubiquitous fact that we build most of our political conversations upon.
Oh, well, everyone knows it, do they? They were all just a bunch of scoundrels.
Your word.
That's a common belief, I suppose.
Yes, Boris, especially now. I don't know what politicians of old were like, maybe they were different. But nowadays, the purpose of a politician is to explain all naturally occurring phenomena as a lack of government intervention.
Well...
To reposition personal accountability beneath the shade of a virtuous government.
Well...
Judged as so by them, then used to justify the censorship of information and the silencing of dissenting voices.
My head is starting to hurt. So, I heard you got caught checking out Angela Rayner's legs.
No, not at all. Not at all. It was all based on some malicious rumour reported to the media by a rebellious Conservative MP, trying to imply that the Right Honourable Lady was trying to distract me with those delightfully chunky and deliciously toned legs.
You sound quite the admirer, Boris.
No. Did it happen again? Oh, God. That happened the other day when I was trying to explain my innocence to Carrie. When I snapped out of my trance, I tell you, I was greeted with the face of Medusa herself.
Oh, no. Well, I've never met Medusa, so I can't say. But how did you bring her back round?
I didn't. We're divorcing. We're moving out Sunday. No, only joking, only joking, only joking.
I bet you promised her more influence over government policy on the issues she's concerned with.
No, I didn't.
I blame myself. Megan says I've been a bit distant recently.
Distant?
Yeah, distant. You know, like, not present.
What does that even mean?
Exactly how are you not present? Harry? Harry?
See? It happened again, didn't it? How did that make you feel?
You might be a lousy ambassador for social change, but you got some skills.
You really weren't present there, were you? Oh, bizarre stuff. Yes, I can see how living with that would become disconcerting.
He's David Copperfield.
Yeah, but you shouldn't take all the blame, Harry. I mean, you two have been on a rough ride now for a while. I mean, not together, of course. You always look, perfectly happy. But at the same time, you've been hit pretty hard by the media.
Racists.
Agreed, probably. But the most important thing is that you keep pushing your wokenomic wokery at exceedingly high levels of wokelitude for a woke-tastic conclusion.
Didn't you just recently speak out, Boris, in support of women's sport in conflict with the trans lobby?
You are? Well, hold on, I can explain. We can't have biological male swimmers beating female swimmers by multiple lengths, It's too obviously insane, It damages our cause. If we want to ram through all the other woke stuff, we need to bail out of the manifestly ludicrous bits,
Yeah, but poor transgender women will be deprived of the opportunity to compete against the gender they identify with.
Yes, but that'll only be a handful in comparison to all the sportswomen. I mean, you've got to know when to jump off the ship. I mean, take a step back here. This is too in your face. I mean, it's provable lunacy. It's not, surreptitious, degradation of standards, and that's fine. But when it comes to this, no, people kick back against this. Even I do.
Yeah, indoctrinate at a more manageable level at schools through education, blurring previous distinctions to rewrite the brain during the more formative years.
Something like that. Yes, it's for the best. Necessary, I'm afraid. And, Barman doesn't think we should embrace any new ideas. He wants to hold on to outdated ones.
Do you think the family unit is an outdated idea?
Well, not exactly, but I'm open to amendments, however, to our comprehension of child development and how a slowly actualizing recalibration of the parent-state relationship might help meet the goals of society.
What are the goals of society?
But I like the family unit. What's wrong with the family unit?
Nothing at all, but just a slow evolution, perhaps, maybe, to safeguard against a family unit stewing in the brothy bile of bad ideas, and that's all. If you're good and decent, then you have absolutely nothing to fear, nothing to worry about at all.
Oh, great.
Besides, it must be a bit difficult being with your family unit all day, most days.
Oh, I personally love to spend more. But Megan, she's so sweet. She's so sweet. She spends most of the day avoiding me. And it's amazing. Most of the day, actually. Amazing.
Well, yes, of course. If I lived with her, that's exactly how I'd want it. Yeah.
Oh, no. What Megan says is that the less time we spend together, the more extra special and amazing it is when we do.
Yes, well, it's a basic supply and demand when you think about it.
Look, after you've gone onto the website and the Patreon page, go, subscribe, like, share, notification bell.